Welcome to this episode of the Cloudsourcing Storytelling Podcast. On today's episode, host Barbara Roseal will be joined by our guest to talk all about the Rory Peck Trust and how technology, such as the cloud, can provide insurance and secure environment for content captured by journalists in the field. Joining Barbara today will be documentary director and producer Dia Khan, journalist, filmmaker and cinematographer Jess Kelly, and director of the Rory Peck Trust, Clotilde Redfern. Welcome to the Cloudsourcing Storytelling Podcast.
Hi everyone, welcome to another Cloudsourcing Storytelling Podcast. My name is Barbara Roseal, I'm marketing lead at SONY, and I will be your host today. And I am very, very proud to have fantastic women here on this panel today. We have with us Clotilde Redfern, who is the director of the Rory Peck Trust, which is supporting freelance journalists worldwide. And SONY is very proud that we have been supporting the Rory Peck Trust for 28 years. So very, very proud that we have been there from the start. So welcome, Clotilde. Then we have Jessica Kelly, who actually just a week ago has won the SONY Impact Awards at the Rory Peck Trust. And who is BAFTA awarded documentary filmmaker. Thank you so much, Jessica, for being here today. And we also have Dia Khan, who has also won the SONY Impact Award some years ago. I think it was 2019, something like this. And Dia is an also incredible filmmaker, documentary filmmaker and journalist. So I'm very happy to have you on board today. And to start with, we'll go with Clotilde. If you can tell us a little bit more about what is the Rory Peck and what's its mission for our audience, please. Thank you, Clotilde.
Sure, absolutely. Thank you so much, Barbara, for inviting me to talk with you today. So the Rory Peck Trust is dedicated to the support, safety and welfare of freelance journalists around the world. And basically, we believe that freelancers play a really important integral part in news gathering and in filmmaking. And so we see the Trust role in protecting and supporting them as a significant contribution to independent journalism. And the Rory Peck Awards that we celebrate and for which we are incredibly grateful to SONY for sponsoring, particularly our Impact Prize, is our way of showcasing the hugely valuable contribution of freelance journalists and filmmakers to independent reporting. So the awards themselves just took place last week at BAFTA, and Jess and Dia are two fantastic examples of the kind of fearless journalism that the Trust supports, because we know how incredibly difficult it is to pull off and sustain a living as an independent filmmaker or journalist. And most of our awardees, just like Dia and Jess, have been making reports from very, very challenging hostile environments. And that's what we specialize in supporting.
Fantastic, yes. And it takes lots of courage to do what you both do, Jess and Dia. So do you want to tell us a little bit on how you came to be actually a journalist and to do this job pretty much? Jess, perhaps if you want to start?
Sure, and thank you so much for having me. It's a real honor to be here. I came at journalism through language, actually. I'd studied Arabic at university, and once I graduated, I went back to Egypt, where I had lived for my year abroad, and kind of made a freelance film, which definitely nobody saw, but was a really good education in filmmaking. And then I just started to try to develop my skills, mostly working in the Middle East. And eventually, probably 5 years into it, was being commissioned by the likes of BBC and Channel 4 to make, investigative films.
Great, fantastic. Thank you, Jess. And Dia, do you want to tell us how you came to be a journalist?
Yeah, first of all, thank you very much for having me here. It's such an honor to be with such incredible women. So I actually came to filmmaking, and not from a journalistic background, but actually from a background of being an activist, and feeling huge sense of frustration about how some of our stories, or stories in the public space, were being told, where I felt like we weren't storytellers. Have a huge responsibility, I think, in how we understand each other, how we understand ourselves and the world around us. And I just felt that when it came to certain minority communities, for example, in the UK or in Europe, that we were doing a huge disservice in creating more misunderstandings between people rather than a better understanding of who those other people are, who different people are. So I think trying to make sense of differences and trying to locate people's humanity and not flatten people's stories was my sort of reason for wanting to jump into filmmaking. Had absolutely no training in filmmaking at all, so just truly just learned as I started making the films. So the very first film that I did ended up being acquired by ITV, and since then the current affairs team there have been incredibly supportive, and that's where I've made the rest of my films, and had the opportunity to develop my skills and my craft as and my voice as a storyteller, which I'm very, very grateful for. And then the recognition from Rory Peck was absolutely astonishing and sort of flooring for me. So thank you.
That's really fantastic, Dia. And I remember in one of, I think, the talks that I've read from you, you were saying, don't pick up a gun, pick up a camera. And I loved it. Don't shoot with a gun, shoot with a camera. Because at the end of the day, passing on messages, this is what you're doing. And this is where you're helping immensely this world into passing on those important messages that people are not necessarily aware of or perhaps don't connect with. And that you're allowing to do through the power of images. So thank you for being courageous, because both you have been doing things that are very courageous. So yeah, this is all about the storytelling and how to pass on those important messages. This is beautiful. So now perhaps let's go a little bit into Jess, as you just won the SONY Impact Awards. Congratulations again last week. Do you want to tell us just a little bit about your film?
Yeah, so the film for which I was awarded the SONY Impact Award is called Under Poison Skies. It's a film I made with BBC Arabic. It's from the front line of climate change in southern Iraq, and it's an investigation into the devastating health impact of gas flaring by big oil companies like BP and Eni, who are gas flaring illegally close to people's homes, which causes a huge amount of pollution. And what we looked at specifically was the high rates of leukemia, especially among children. So yeah, it was a really in-depth investigation, but with what I hope are really kind of moving human stories, especially those of children and young people, many of whom died before, while we were making the film. So yeah, it's probably the film I'm most proud of out of anything I've done. And yeah, it was just such a huge honor to have it recognized by Rory Peck.
This is great. Well, to be honest, it's such a courageous work to go into those into this story, and also the film is absolutely beautiful from the cinematographic perspective, and so human, and really telling things that needs to be told, that are very much or not told or hidden, let's say. So that's really great that you could put this message out there. So congratulations again.
Thank you.
So now let's go a little bit on the technology side of things, on the cloud stories, as we are on those podcasts. So first, Clotilde, if I ask you, into what do you think, or how do you think technology could potentially help journalists on the ground in the field in your perspective, in your eyes at the moment?
Well, we know that at present, journalists are increasingly targeted, and they are targeted specifically for the reporting and the work that they're doing. Sadly, more journalists now die as a direct result of being targeted for the work that they're doing than those that are killed in the crossfire reporting from front lines. So that's quite a sort of shocking state of affairs. And so anything that allows journalists to safeguard themselves and their content can have a real impact on their safety and the success of their reporting. So we know that often journalists lose their hardware at checkpoints. Journalists who are under suspicion can have their phones, their cameras, or their laptops confiscated. If that happens and there is any sensitive coverage, film, or information on their hardware, that could be putting their contributors at risk. So many of those risks could be minimized by cloud technology and by the ability to be able to upload content quickly to a safe cloud space for other people, for either yourself or other people to access later. Not only does it safeguard the content, but it safeguards the journalist and their team by not implicating them in the story that they're covering, by not having that content physically on them.
Yes, that makes a lot of sense. So then they don't have like really this pressure about having it there, and pretty much it's already safeguarded, and pretty much they're not being pressured or confiscated or having to delete, let's say, the content itself. I don't know if this happened to you, Dia or Jess, in your life, to have already had some content confiscated. I see you nodded, Jess. This happened to you, right?
Yeah, I was in Saudi a few years ago, and we were doing a film about whether or not the changes that MBS had brought in were really kind of impacting people's lives, or it was basically at that turning point when women were given the right to drive. And when you're in Saudi filming, you have to have government minders. And we had briefly had a moment to ourselves where I was able to ask the reporter about one of the detained activists, but one of the minders came back and overheard us, and then they confiscated our cameras immediately. And they took our rushes, and luckily I did have a copy of the rushes, so
well done.
I had to FedEx them out of Saudi, which was really touch and go. And you know, they took a copy of the rushes, and then we had to leave on the next flight. But that's just one example of.
So it does happen. It does happen. I'm sure lots of your colleagues or journalists on the fields had a similar experience. So that's true that the cloud solutions can really help you to, let's say, safeguard these contents directly as you have them, and being able to have it, and then nobody can get it back from you. So on the cloud solution itself and cloud workflows, Dia, have you been using any cloud workflows in your, let's say, way day-to-day work at the moment?
Yes, I have. The last several films that I've done, actually, we've used the cloud a lot. But obviously, the most important thing to think about is, you know, if you don't have internet access, then it's a solution that becomes inaccessible. So wherever we have had access, what we tend to do is as soon as we've been out filming and we come back, we obviously back up the footage 3 ways. So that's just kind of a practice that we've always done, and we will continue to do, even with the cloud. And then we back up all of our files and make sure that they're sitting safely somewhere. And then wherever it has been possible, we also, this is, you know, once we come back, or at times, if we've got decent internet speeds, we will try to also create proxies and upload those so that our colleagues back in London can then review some of the footage or even work on some of it as we go. on some basic initial edits, which what they'll do then is they'll re-upload the proxies from their end that we will then resync back into our timelines here. So in terms of the practicalities of how to apply and utilize cloud technology, it's something that's become an embedded part of the process of how I make films now. Because I work across time zones, I work across borders, and most of us are scattered in different places, I have to utilize that rather than, or I try to avoid having to, send actual hard drives or having to hand deliver footage anymore. So it's just become a much more efficient, and it's also become a cheaper. Just the cost of it is far better for us as well. So I think, safeguarding of the material and the person with the footage, but I think also just the workflow itself has become far more efficient.
Yeah, and then you're more efficient in the work that you do. You can be faster with the solutions from Sony. We have a solution that is called C3P, and which is pretty much allowing to send directly. You have an app and you can connect it to your camera, and you can have directly the files sent to the cloud. And then you could even have somebody at base to actually be editing and looking at the content while you're shooting. So now cloud solutions are allowing things that were not possible before. And I can totally understand that this, workflow solutions tools help you to be more efficient and more collaborative, because I guess then they can also, you can share data more easily, right, together, and get probably some ideas about also what you're shooting and if this is going in the right direction. Jess, I think we're talking a little bit earlier about how into those things that have been confiscated, etc. And right now, if those kind of cloud solutions would be possible, and at the end of the day, you could kind of send your tools to the cloud. I guess because you're being commissioned also by big companies and broadcasters, how useful do you think this would be if they could also have access to this, let's say, to your material that is highly cinematographic, also into having the look, or perhaps even like some, let's say, editorial tweaks that they might do? Would that be helpful to your work every day?
Yeah, I think it definitely would be. Often, you're working in a team which is very collaborative, but only you and another person are actually in the field filming. And so, it's always kind of difficult at the end of the day to kind of report back to the rest of the team and explain kind of who you've filmed and what it's been looking like. And, their feedback is always really important when you're out there and, you might be exhausted and losing a bit of perspective or judgment. And so if, other people on the team were able to see what we shot and say, yeah, you're this character, this person you're filming does look like an amazing character, or give you other ideas of things that you could be doing. And if they could react actually to the footage rather than your kind of garbled messages typed on WhatsApp like late at night, that could be really valuable. I think, as Dia said, often it's a limitation of good internet access, and I haven't been able to use the cloud to upload footage as I go so far. But if there was a way to do that, despite bad internet access, I think that would be really valuable.
Yes, yeah, definitely. The access is always like the tricky part, but there are so many advances right now in the technology that allows to get the data into chunks and get it to the cloud, or really getting into lighter, let's say, little parts, and some codecs that are very very efficient, that allows you to have light files to send them quite quickly to the cloud. I think we're really right now at the time where this is happening, and we're able, hopefully, to help you guys to make the most of this technology today. Fantastic. So I think we're kind of getting towards the end of the podcast. Oh yes, go for it, Jess. If you want to add anything.
One question, which I think probably a lot of people would ask, but I think that there would be some worries about like security of your files on the cloud, and I don't know if you can tell us anything about like how you can guarantee that, you know, your precious footage of possibly a vulnerable contributor is definitely going to be safe.
Absolutely, absolutely. So for us, you know, part of the cloud solutions, this is something that is really second to none. We have a solution that is called C Media Cloud, and we're working with the biggest studios in the world, like Disney, for example. And pretty much there is a real security to it. And that's part of the first, let's say, primary question when going into the cloud. Because obviously, if you have this very sensitive material, you don't want anyone to be getting in or messing with it. So security is absolutely the number one, and I think it is a key requirement into actually being a cloud solution provider. So this is definitely something that is that we're providing today, and that will keep being like really at the top of the priority list. And to safeguard the content makers and also all the intellectual property for any kind of films and movies overall.
Yeah, I think that's a really important point, Jess. I think it's the sensitivity of some of the material and some of the vulnerability of some of the people that I think we film, and not knowing who might have access or whether there are other ways of getting into that material if it is just sitting there. Well, how do we relate to that? I think it's really, really key question.
Absolutely,
actually.
absolutely. Yeah. So there is a safeguard of the content into the cloud, the collaborative part, the efficiency part, but definitely the security part is extremely prime to those solutions. And actually, Clotilde, I had this question for you that I didn't mention, but at the Rory Peck, also you have been using some cloud solutions into actually making sure that you have all your entries right into the Rory Peck Awards, and this has been changing also for you through the years, right?
Absolutely. The cloud technology has revolutionized our workflow for the Rory Peck Awards. So as you can imagine, we receive video footage from freelance journalists and filmmakers all over the world who enter our awards. We have over 100 submissions. That's a lot of content to juggle. I can still remember the pre-cloud days when we used to get tapes posted to the office, and then we'd have to create packs of tape copies and DVDs to send to judges. I mean, it was quite a logistical nightmare. It took a lot of time and it was expensive. The cloud technology has just revolutionized the whole process. It's meant everything is in a secure, independent space online. It has not only made the logistics and the data management around our awards production process so much easier, but it's also made it much easier for our judges. And the jury panels that judge the Rory Peck Awards, including the SONY Impact Prize, are all, really busy professional people at their prime who are volunteering their time to help us pick our nominees. We want it to be as easy for them to do this and pleasant to a process as possible to judge the Rory Peck Awards. And now that we're using cloud technology, we can just give them their very own dedicated login. They pop in, all the films are there, very easy to access. Even their judging comments go into the cloud itself, and then that makes it so much easier for us when we've decided when the juries have decided who the nominees are, because all the content is right there. We can straight away start making the clips for the ceremony, and it has just been, life changing. It's been wonderful.
Fantastic, yeah. And I really see where the value is lying definitely here. And I think, Dia, at some point you were speaking also about the fact that, when you get this content also in the cloud, it's how to organize it. And the metadata is also quite important, how you actually tag your content, because I guess afterwards, to actually get it correctly and remember, actually, this clips was about this one. And there is more and more. So at SONY, we offer lots of solutions into being really proactive with this metadata. And also using some AI technology, artificial intelligence, into helping you to actually tag this data with speech to text, but many other, let's say, AI tools. How I don't know if you're using it today, and if you see that would be helpful for you in your cloud workflow.
Well, what I was gonna wanted to also mention is that another aspect where it's been incredibly helpful for me and how I make the films is that it's allowed for me to now edit remotely. So because I now have the ability to move the footage back and forth between myself and the editor or myself and the exec producer, it's opened up it's freed me up to, first of all, be able to react to things much more real time and also across time zones very easily. And of course, in our earlier workflow, we did make a lot of mistakes in terms of, because we work with the proxies, so we were making mistakes in terms of timelines that would come back to us, had been renamed and resaved into other, recategorized. And then, of course, once it comes back, it would never link back up. So then the entire work that had been done back in London was sort of useless. But we've refined all of that, and we've sort of figured out some of the glitches in our own way of doing things to where it's now become incredibly efficient, where we can get different timelines back and forth, check different cuts, different variations of various drafts of interviews and things like that we've done, that has been exceptionally helpful and has made the edit process faster and far more efficient for us. So that's been very helpful, not having to, and also I have small children, so not having to, be traveling all the time, especially for the edit, not having to relocate every time we do an edit, has been really helpful in working remotely on the side of the edit.
Yeah, that really makes sense. And then that's really this collaborative side of things with the team you're working with, or everybody can kind of add their own parts to it. That's
and then the same with the grade and the post as well. It's just so the entire process, from being out in the field filming it, to the storage, to the backups, to then actually working with the footage, for us, the cloud has become a completely integrated part of the entire process now.
That's brilliant, and it also allows to be faster. So when you're a journalist on the ground and you need to break the news first, and really being able to actually bring your content directly into the cloud and being able to share it to the world, then this process is also much faster into actually getting the news to the audience and to the people out there, and reaching more platforms also. So this is really great. I think we're going to an end to the podcast. Thank you so much, Clotilde, Jessica, Dia, for being here with us today and sharing your experiences. And wishing you all the best.